Hello, welcome again to Benchwarmers. We are going to talk some football coming up with Nathan Gerry from the Philadelphia Eagles, but first some hockey in June with Colten St. former University of North Dakota player, now in the USHL as an assistant coach with the Omaha Lancers. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but an Arizona kid, right? Arizona kid that ended up in Fargo and then ended up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, playing hockey. First question is, there's an NHL team in Arizona called the Arizona what?
The Arizona Coyotes, the Coyotes.
The Coyotes. Is it Coyotes or Coyotes?
Coyotes, but everyone in the fans all chant, "Let's go Coyotes" during the game, yeah.
And the University of South Dakota, you have some friends there. They are
Coyotes.
You got that right. All right, so we got that cleared up. But from Arizona as a high school kid, but ended up in Fargo playing for the Fargo Force in the USHL.
Yeah.
How did you get hooked up, and how did you end up in Fargo as a high school kid, I think, right?
Yeah, well, I was playing in Arizona, and then actually I went through the USHL draft and ended up getting drafted by Fargo. One of the coaches there, Chad Johnson, actually, I played for him growing up for some summer youth teams, and I ended up getting drafted. I was the youngest player in the league.
And, do you see yourself here?
I do see myself there. That's when I had skill.
This is what, 8-9 years ago?
Yep. This is my last year in Fargo right before I went to North Dakota.
All right, so you played in the USHL, I think for what, 3 years?
3 years, yeah, 15 to 18.
Okay, so. And then ended up, you got an offer from the University of North Dakota to play college hockey at UND. Was there for 5 years.
Yep.
Part of a national championship team for one of these storied programs in the country.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's a good way to go out. I went through a lot of things. First year I had to sit out, train on my own. So when the guys were on the ice, I was in the weight room. When they were in the weight room, I was on the ice by myself. And then went through some injuries senior year, and then ended up playing in the last game, which is what's counted, and couldn't ask for a better way to go out with a better group of guys.
And you get into the coaching ranks and you get into all these hockey circles. That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah,
I played at UND, right?
Yeah, it definitely helps. Even for recruiting and those type of things. People, I'll admit it does help, right? It does. But just learning from under, Coach Hackstall, Brad Barry, Dane Jackson, those guys. They, you learn how to go about things the right way. And how to run a program, how to teach your guys to play like pros and that type of thing.
Dave Hackstall was your coach initially at UND, and then Brad Barry for the last year. But you kind of hung out with those guys in your senior year, your last year there, to kind of learn what coaching is all about.
Yeah, I kind of did I don't know if I want to call it an internship program, but basically. I did a shadowing. Obviously, like I said, with the injuries, and then I got to some meetings, obviously not lineup decision meetings, but some meetings about special teams or 5-on-5 play I'd be a part of. I'd just kind of sit there for 5-10 minutes and then go about my day, and then kind of took some of our stats during games and just kind of learned all about like the Corsi method and the analytics side of the game a little bit.
Again, very good training, right?
Yeah,
and this is some video of Colten St. playing at the University of North Dakota. And you get out of there and you've kind of been in the coaching ranks for a couple of years now. A junior team in Arizona. You were an assistant coach at the University of Maine, I think, for a year, and then now going to Omaha in the USHL. What is kind of the goal? You're going to be in player development and scouting, but what is the goal of USHL as far as player development?
Well, I think it's just right now, in my opinion, for juniors, it's the most professional league as far as the way you teach the players. And I mean, it's a grueling season, right? It's long, but your goal is to develop those players and to be the best player they can be so they're ready for their college programs. And I just think, there's no better way to do it than the USHL. And you even get NHL draft picks out of it. That just shows how the league is. And it's just very professional, very prestigious league, and it's just up on the rise right now, too. All
right, we're going to talk about that when we come back. More with Colten St. We're going to bring Alex Heinert, our UND guy, in. Talk about the NHL draft that's coming up this weekend. And it's so different from the NBA and the NFL. We'll talk about how guys get picked, but they might not end up in the NHL for 3 or 4 years down the road. We'll talk about the NHL draft with these guys when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers, joined again by Colten St. former UND hockey player, coming up with the Omaha Lancers as an assistant coach this coming season, and Alex Heinert, our University of North Dakota correspondent here on Midco Sports Network. NHL draft is coming up this Friday and Saturday. New Jersey's got the number 1 pick. Minnesota's at number 12. We don't want to talk about that so much. But is there a unanimous number 1 pick that's probably going to go a kid, maybe an American kid from Team USA in the SHL?
Jack Hughes. He'll go number 1.
That's the unanimous,
yeah.
probably.
And then obviously with the number 2 pick with Capo, it's not either one's a good pick, but he was, I think, will go 1. So.
All right, kid from Finland. That's
yeah.
the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
All right, the people in this area know football, basketball. The NFL and the NBA drafts are pretty straightforward. You play in college in America, most likely. You get drafted in the NFL or the NBA. The next year, you're playing professional sports, right? It is not that way in hockey. Hockey is so different. It's a little bit like baseball, but even different in a way. Alex, explain how hockey is so different from these other drafts.
So the big thing is that you've got, in the other drafts, obviously, you do your college years first, then you go pro.
Right.
In college, you get drafted first, then you do your college years, and then you go pro.
In hockey, that's the way it works.
In hockey, that's the way it works. So you can be, the NHL teams will retain the rights of these players as they go through their college years, and then they're ready for them to jump into the league, whenever that is, after 2, 3, 4 seasons at the college level.
Okay.
So you maintain your amateur status, even though an NHL team has your rights.
All right, UND had 4 players drafted last year. One guy in the first round, I believe, but they all ended up playing college hockey at UND. Denver's the same way, all these other teams. Let's talk about some guys from North Dakota. This is kind of a unique situation with a freshman goalie UND had this past season named Adam Scheel, who has not yet been drafted. Just talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. So your draft years are from when you're 18 to 20 years old. Most of the time you get taken when you are 18. But it's unique that you would make it to college undrafted, have a standout freshman season, and then get taken. And that's what happened with Adam Scheel this past season. It was phenomenal. We didn't expect him to be the starter coming into the season. We expected Peter Thome, who had been a freshman the year before, to take the gloves. But Scheel came in, played fantastic, and he's got a shot now to hear his name called coming up this weekend in Vancouver.
All right, a couple other kids. Who we got here?
So Shane Pinso, this is going to be the highest drafted UND commit of the list. Shane could be late first, early second, a big physical centerman who played for Tri-City in the USHL last year. Kid out of New York. You don't see a lot of New York kids that end up coming to North Dakota, but he's going to be an instant impact guy next season. Could be, again, a late first, early second round pick this weekend. Another kid, you talk about not a lot of kids from New York coming to UND. A lot of local kids do stick around. And Judd Caulfield, who's a Grand Forks Central grad, played for Team USA the last 2 seasons. He's going to be maybe a mid, third, fourth, fifth, sometime in there, but another big physical kid that can play inside. He's going to be a guy that will score a lot of goals around the crease like you saw there. And he's a guy that played against top competition last season. Another kid from the Canadian junior ranks, Harrison Blaisdell, who's a kid from Saskatchewan. Just electric and energetic type guy. Was injured a bit last season, but Colten, you talk about his numbers, had phenomenal production last year despite the fact he didn't play a ton of games.
Well, especially having a lot of injury problems, if you can put up a point a game or a couple points over, I mean, that's pretty good. It's hard to get back into the swing of things and get in a rhythm, but for him to do that obviously shows how smart of a player he is and a competitor.
Yeah, kid with top 6 upside. He's going to be a guy that UND is going to expect to play right away. This is a kid who will not be playing right away because he's not going to be coming to UND until 2020. But Cameron Rowe is another goaltender who played for Team USA last year. He was kind of 1B to Spencer Knight's 1A. Knight's going to be a kid who might get taken in the first round of the draft who played for Team USA. But Rowe got a chance to play against UND last year in an exhibition game. A kid from Illinois that has a chance to be the starting goaltender in a couple of seasons. But he's going to take sort of a different path. He's going to play next season at juniors and then will come to UND. So you can get taken by a team, you're committed to a college, but then you don't go there right away. You can spend another year getting yourself ready to play at the D1 level, and then you move on to the NHL. So a lot of different paths to make it to the top level in terms of hockey.
And if NHL teams have those draft rights until 30 days, I think, after you leave college. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. So USHL, you're looking at this at a kind of a different angle. A lot of kids do come out of the USHL that end up in the NHL playing professional hockey, but it's kind of a different path, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you go, obviously, USHL. Most kids get drafted from USHL, right? That's when they're 18, so that's when they're, their first draft season could be at the end. Usually if you're getting drafted high end, you're going to go into college that season as a true freshman. But some kids, like say, but Pinto, he's a high end USHL player. He's going to get drafted. He's going to go play in North Dakota, and then he's going to play his years there, or however many they are, and then he's going to go play in the NHL and sign a contract.
Yeah, that's a pretty good path. USHL to a college program, and then to the NHL. But
for a lot of the American kids, that's the way
that's
it is.
That's the other thing. Yeah. Maybe half of these NHL rosters are made up of kids that go that path. Where are all these other kids coming from, though? Canadian leagues.
Yeah, you get major junior, which you don't have college eligibility once you play major junior in Canada. So you got the WHL, the QMJHL, and then you got the OHL.
There's a lot of HLs.
And so for there, though, you got to think about it. There's no right or wrong path to take.
Yeah.
Okay, there really isn't. But if you're playing in the major junior leagues, you're essentially maybe getting 2 or 3, or because you're going to get drafted. You might be 20 by that point, so you get three years of development. In college, if you're taking that route, you got to think you can get 1 year in the USHL, maybe 2, 4 years in college. That's 6 right there. That's 6 years versus 3. And so every kid has a different development path. But like I said, I'm not going to get into the political battle. There's no right or wrong path. There really isn't. If you're going to be a high first-round pick, WHL or whatever league in the major juniors isn't a bad choice at all. So.
Right. But it's fun to see Omaha and Fargo, the Fargo Force, and Sioux Falls Stampede that won the USHL championship this year, have a part in playing that and getting guys to the NHL. It's fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see a ton of kids that are playing here in Sioux Falls at the Denny, or playing in Fargo, playing in Omaha, at Lincoln, wherever. You get a chance to see these guys before they get drafted, and then get to see them maybe for even a year after they are, before they go on to college. It's the next wave of future stars of the game at the highest level playing locally. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yep.
All right. Kid from Arizona that played hockey in North Dakota. We're going to come back and talk about South Dakota high school hockey, North Dakota high school hockey, kind of where it stands in the national picture when we come back here on Benchwarmers. Welcome back to Benchwarmers. Finish up some hockey talk here with Alex and Colten St. Clair. Let's talk about high school hockey in the state of North Dakota. It is a sanctioned high school sport, but we're going to put up some pictures here and just get your thoughts on the level of play, I guess, in high school hockey in the state of North Dakota.
I think the atmosphere is great. I think it's on the rise again, just like a lot of places are. But I think you get teams that in the Grand Forks, Fargo area, they get a lot of guys that play their high school, and they get opportunities to play juniors in Canada and things like that. Some guys USHL, but for me it's it's a decent feeder.
Yeah, I would say, there are typically every year between 10 to 15 North Dakota natives that are playing D1 hockey, probably more than that, at different times. And you see some top high-end kids that have come out of, Alec Rawhauser's a kid from Bismarck that's playing for Bowling Green, is an all-conference kid. Mason Morelli was an all-conference kid from Minot who played last year for Omaha. And obviously a lot of guys with UND ties, of course, that have had a lot of success from Grand Forks. So it's good. I would say it's competitive. It's not Minnesota by any stretch, but it's a good level of high school hockey. Right. Yeah, exactly.
You got Paul Ledoux, Luke Johnson, and those guys.
These are NHL guys.
Yeah, these are guys in the NHL, and then you got Tucker Pullman, East Grand Forks, one of those guys that's playing. So that area, that area especially is definitely improving. I remember playing in Fargo, and it's like these guys, I didn't think they were that great, and then all of a sudden 2 years later it's phenomenal. Right. They get really good players out of there. So.
All right, South Dakota hockey, it's a non-sanctioned, it's a club sport in the South Dakota Amateur Hockey Association, but it's come a long ways in the last 10 years. What kind of assess the level of South Dakota high school hockey?
I definitely think it's behind North Dakota high school hockey.
There's probably no argument there.
And that's just my honest opinion. I think the first 3 days I got to Sioux Falls, I watched the reruns of the high school hockey here, but it was a good atmosphere in the state finals, and I think, just like I said, every hockey community is growing, so it's good to see.
I think having the Stampede have the success they've had, and the prolonged success has helped. I think it's grown some of the excitement around the game in the state. But at the same time, there's clearly a step down. When you look at numbers, when you look at funding, obviously it's not a sanctioned sport like you said in the state. But still, it's cool to see some local South Dakota kids have shots at the D1 level. Zeb Knutson was a great player for Minnesota State Mankato for years, and he's a Sioux Falls kid. His cousin, Walker Dewar, is playing there now. There's a kid playing out in RPI who's from Dakota Dunes down by Sioux City. So there's some kids that have come from South Dakota that have moved on, but just the numbers just aren't quite there just yet.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Colten heads to Omaha. You're kind of going back and forth between Omaha and here right now, but you're going to get settled in with the Lancers. What's coming up in the next couple of months?
We got our development camp end of July, and then kind of just sit back and assess and kind of get our game plan going for what we want to accomplish next year and the systems that we want to play. Obviously David Wilkie, he's very good with the systems, and he's a very intense guy, but he's very loyal, which is awesome. So he's going to be really fun to work with and work for and learn from. So it's going to be great. And then Dave Nyes, the other assistant coach, he's the life of the party, but he's got high energy. He wants to be there. He wants to be the best coach he can be. So we got a good staff right now. And then our goalie coach, Jason Power, we're kind of all just getting together, chatting, and seeing what our next step is.
All right. Best of luck this coming season. Alex, World Cup's going on right now, so
Yeah, this is
keeping us abreast of that, right?
Summer of soccer, baby. Yeah, we're keeping it rolling. Yeah.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
USA
NHL draft coming up this Friday and Saturday. When we come back, we're going to talk about Dallas Goedert and Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles with Nathan Gerry, who's in town for a couple of weeks. When we come back on Benchwarmers. Welcome back to Benchwarmers, joined by Nathan Gerry, Sioux Falls, Washington alum, All-American football player at Nebraska, and going into his third year with the Philadelphia Eagles coming up this next season. How are you, man?
Good. Feels good to be back home in Sioux Falls.
And you have love for Philadelphia and playing there and the fans there, but you like getting back around here, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's a nice switch up. You know, living in the city for 6 months out of the year, it's nice to come home to the open land and all the friends and family. Is always nice to a little stress reliever.
All right. You're sad that Game of Thrones has come to an end, right? You were a big fan. Are you going to watch some reruns maybe this summer?
I think I'm going to have to run season 8 back, yeah. I was pretty happy about Bran being the king.
You nailed the prediction on that?
I did nail the prediction. I was pretty happy about that, but I think it could have been a little bit better, but still a great show.
All right. Some big moments with the Eagles in your first 2 seasons. Win the Super Bowl championship in season 1. First NFL interception came last year. Here's the reaction from that. What happened here? This was on Monday Night Football. This was cool.
Yeah, finally got an opportunity to play. I think if I remember right, it was a play action pass, and I just kind of got underneath one of the over routes, and Sanchez kind of threw it out in front of me and had to make a play. So it was nice to get the first one under your belt. All
right, so you have that, a couple of starts last year. More time, more tackles, a little bit more of everything, and now going into the third year here. You're figuring things out, right?
Right, yeah. I feel a lot more comfortable. The first couple of years, especially for me, I was, transitioning from safety to linebacker. That was obviously tough, especially going into the NFL level. But I finally been able to transition to the position change, understanding the defense more, how things work, just being able to be a veteran player. Rookie years, it's tough. It's a grind. Unfortunately, it was pretty cool because we did win the Super Bowl. But just being a veteran now, being able to understand the do's and the don'ts, obviously makes you play faster, which is kind of helping me out.
All right, and part of the Dakota crew with the Eagles, Carson Wentz. Talk a little bit about him. Huge contract for Carson Wentz, of course, a huge deal here in the Dakotas. What was the reaction on the team to the big deal for Carson?
Loved it. He's a great leader for us. He's a guy that everybody can look up to, everybody that can go and talk to, which is always nice to have, especially on the quarterback position. But we're all excited for him, to lead us for the next 6 years or whatever it is. Probably gonna be longer knowing him. But he looks really healthy. He's making those plays again. He's moving around. I think he took the knee brace off for camp and stuff, so that's obviously a good sign.
All right. And then Dallas Goedert, our South Dakota State boy, is going to be in his second season now as a tight end. And all accounts are that this is going to be a big season coming up for Dallas. It looks like he's in great shape.
Yeah, he looks really good. I think that, with his nutrition and stuff, I think he's thinned out a little bit. He's not as big, but he's moving a lot better. He also had a really good camp. It's tough. He's a good matchup for linebackers. Especially with having Zach Ertz out there that, they got to, do something with one of the two. So it's nice to have both of them out there.
We have a big Eagles fan in the control room here that thinks the offense is going to be really good. What about the Eagle defense?
Really good. I think, we got a lot of guys come back. We didn't really lose anybody. Obviously for us in our defensive scheme, it starts up front. And, we still got, 5, 6 pass rushers that can get to the quarterback. So when you got 5 or 6 guys up front that can get there, it obviously helps everybody in the back end and in the second level. So we got a lot of experience and veteran leadership back there, so we should be all right.
And you're set to play really any linebacker position coming up this year, right?
Yeah, they got me in the mix for all 3 of them. So obviously being able to use my intelligence to play all 3 is obviously beneficial for me to be versatile.
All right, going to be fun. Eagles at the Vikings on October 13th, if you're interested in that. More with Nate Gerry coming up. Going to go back to his days at Sioux Falls, Washington, and see if the 2012 team there was the best ever in South Dakota. More with Nate Gerry coming up.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics.
Welcome back with Nathan Gerry going into his third year with the Philadelphia Eagles. Coming up this fall, Sioux Falls, Washington grad and the Sioux Falls Argus Leader, the newspaper, the media conglomerate, is having a thing this summer about who was the best all-time high school football team in South Dakota. Let's go back to 2012. I think we've got some pictures here of your senior year at Sioux Falls, Washington. Do you remember your record?
Yeah, undefeated.
12-0. Outscored opponents 549-81 that year. You played defense and offense in high school, right? You were a pretty good wide receiver, running back?
Yeah, I tried my best. My older brother played receiver, so I kind of learned a couple of tips from him. And I obviously had a really good quarterback with John Heinert, so that obviously helped.
You were the kicker and the punter on this team as well? Nobody remembers this, but is that true?
Yeah, I was. I think earlier in the year we didn't have a kicker, so kind of Herm was just kind of having people try out, and then I kind of bought the job after that in camp. Probably.
Brian Hermanson was still the coach at that time. So here's just some more of you pounding away. But All-State as a wide receiver in your senior season, and you telling me you're the backup long snapper for the Eagles coming up this year?
Yeah. That's one of the things that I can do that not a lot of people know about is long snaps. So you always got to have a backup.
And you would put this team, there's number 5 is Nathan Gerry as an all-state receiver, 22 touchdowns. Offensively, making the sack there, would you put this team as maybe the best ever in South Dakota? Would you say that right now?
Yeah, I would. I think the only team that I would probably compete with us would be my brother's class. I think they were 2010 or 2009 would have been the fall, but they had a really good team. I think the person you probably should ask is Coach Hermanson, who he thinks is better, but I think the top 2 would be between my brother and me. So.
All right. Appreciate it, buddy. Good luck going
absolutely.
into this fall.
Thanks for having me.
Don't be stupid on a jet ski and get hurt or anything.
Yeah, I'll try not to.
At the lake this summer. I know I sound like your mother, but appreciate it. We'll see you next week on Benchwarmers. Thanks to Colten St. Clair, talking some hockey, and Alex Heinert earlier in the show. Thanks to Nate Gerry. See you next week on Benchwarmers.